Evening everybody. Well, tonight we're going to take a look at factoring quadratics when my a is not 1. I'm also going to show you a couple of different methods to keep track of how you factored. We've been using grouping, but I'm also going to go back to the box method and show you how that works. You are free to use whichever method works best for you. So let's get started. Make sure you've got your notebooks ready and let's begin. Okay, well, let's start again from taking a look at where our polynomial comes from. We have 2x plus 3 and 3x minus 2. We use the box method and we find that we have 6x squared, 9x, negative 4x, and negative 6. And again, we're going to take a look at this by saying, hey, my 5x came from 9x and negative 4x. I need to find those components. I'm going to add to the 5. And I now know that my a is 6 and my c is negative 6. So I am going to multiply to the negative 36. And that's why it's important to include that a. This 6 grew by the 3 times 2. This 6x squared also grew by the 2x times 3x. But these components here also grew because of these factors. And that might sound a little more complicated than it has to be. But the bottom line is that we've been stressing multiplying a times c, but up until this point your a value has always been a 1. Next we're going to run through the math drill again of looking for two numbers that multiply to get me to negative 36, but also add to 5. We know that our number will be positive, so I start with a negative, and I'm just going to run through my factors here. And I see that 9 minus 4 gives me 5. Now, I've done this two ways, and I'm going to continue to use the first method, which is 6x squared, plus my 5x comes from 9x minus 4x minus 6, and then we're just going to use the grouping technique. Okay, 6x squared and 9x, the GCF is 3x, which leaves me with 2x plus 3, and over here my GCF is 2, which leaves me with 2x plus 3, and then I just simplify 3x minus 2 times 2x plus 3. And as you can see, I generated this polynomial by multiplying, so I got back. And so we should be able to move back and forth. Now, some of you have expressed a concern about how complicated that grouping is. Another method that you can use is, once you get these components, is you now know that you have 6x squared from here. You know that you have negative 6 in your block here. And you now know that it came from 9x and negative 4x. Okay, so now you just look across and you find the GCF. The GCF of 6 and 9 is 3x. What times what will give me 6x squared? 2x. 3x times what will give me 9x plus 3. 2x. I'm sorry. This is why I do it the other way. What times, oh, I forgot my x, that's why I'm having a hard time here. What times 2x will give me negative 4x? Negative 2, and then I check, negative 2 times 3 gives me negative 6. So the other method that you can do, and you can use this with the simple quadratics, is plug in a, c, and your 2b values, and then just work your way backwards. I, like I said, prefer the GCF method. Let's do 2 or 3 more of these together just to make sure you feel comfortable with it. Okay, so now here we have factoring our quadratics, and we're looking at negative 2x squared minus 8x minus 6. And I told you the very first thing we always want to do is factor out our negative exponents. Or I'm sorry, do our GCF, and if we have anything negative, factor that out. So here we have negative 2, negative 8, and negative 6. I want to get rid of this negative 2, and so I'm going to rewrite this as negative 2 times x squared plus 4x plus 3. And that should look like a very familiar problem to you. Okay, we can still do the B, the A, and the C, but in this particular case, I've reduced my A from a -2 back down to a 1. My B is 4, my AC is 3 times 1 is 3, 3 times 1 seems to work, and so now I can do X plus 3 times X plus 1 times the -2. And if you're confused about how I got there so quickly, then please either go in and do the grouping method, which breaks the x squared plus 3x plus x plus 3 and group and see how I got that, or use the box method, which I'll actually show you one more time. We have our x squared, we have our 3x, we have our x, and we have our 3. X times x gives me x squared, x times what gives me 3x plus 3, x times what gives me 1x plus 1. And I'm always going to remember to include the previous information. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so let's take a look at something like this. Again, I have a negative number, so I'm really anxious to get rid of the negative, so I'm going to rewrite that as -1 times 9x squared plus 34x minus 8. I'm going to look for any other GCF that I may have missed. It doesn't look like that, so I'm going to go into my BAC, be a champion. So I'm adding to 34, and I'm multiplying to 9 times 8, -8 is -72. I know that my number is going to have to be positive, and I know in order to get a negative number I need to multiply a positive times a negative. So I'm going to start with positive 72 times -1. That doesn't work, so now I'm going to try -2. 2 into 72 is 36, and 36 minus 2 is 34. Great. So now I can come back in and I can rewrite this as 9x squared plus 36x minus 2x and then minus 8. And again, the 36 minus 2x is the same as writing 34x. Now I'm just looking for factoring. I have 9x times x, and 9x times 4 gives me 36x minus, my coefficient here looks like 2, or my GCF looks like 2, x plus 4, and then I just rewrite, because I do have my common x plus 4, 9x minus 2 times x plus 4. And here's most probably where a lot of people make a mistake, is now we have to make sure we put back the negative number. Okay, that negative that we factored out has still been here the whole time. So I'm going to plug this in. And let's see how we do. Great. Next question. Okay, and this one looks like it's nice and positive, so we don't have to deal with that. So, come up here, look for a GCF. Any GCFs? Doesn't look like it. Looks like a quadratic, so I'm going to build my table. I'm adding to -3, and I'm multiplying to 2 times 27, which appears to be -54. So now I look again, I've got a negative AC, which means that I'm multiplying by a positive and a negative. I need to add to a negative, so my negative number is going to be the larger number, and then I just start. Okay. 2. We already did this, -27. Now I do know before I start this that my numbers are only going to be 3 apart, but I'm going to go through this exercise just to show you that if you don't see it, just start dividing. 3 into 54 is 1, 3 into 24 is 18. Still not there, okay. We're at 4. 4 doesn't go in. 5 doesn't go in. 6. 6 into 54 is 9. Negative 9 plus 6. Negative 9 plus 6 gives me my negative 3. Awesome. All right, so now I know that my factors are my components of b is negative 9 and 6. So I'm going to just rewrite this now. 2x squared minus 9x plus 6x minus 27. And I'm going to do this both ways so you can see that it doesn't really make a difference. All right, so factors here looks like just x, and I'm left with 2x minus 9. Factors over here looks like 3 times x. Whoa, what happened? Oh, that's what happened. 2x minus 9. See, I was expecting to find the factor and I didn't see it there for a second. So now my answer is x plus 3 times 2x minus 9. Well, let's say if we had rewritten this the other way. 2x squared plus 6x minus 9x minus 27. Does it make a difference? GCF here is 2x, which leaves me with x plus 3 minus 9 times x plus 3 gives me 2x minus 9 times x plus 3. And so you can see that it doesn't make a difference which of these parts of the b that I put in whatever order. So from tonight's video, I hope that you get that we are going to check if we have a negative a, we're going to factor that out. We're going to still look for our b form, but our AC incorporates both the value in front of the x squared and the c value. And we are going to systematically work our way through using a little common sense, knowing that if I have a negative number, that my negative multiplier should be greater, and so on. We'll have plenty of time in class tomorrow and the next day to practice. You do not have to do any assignments before you come in tomorrow. I just want you to be able to write this on your paper. And think about what that means and how I was able to factor that so quickly. So that's on your paper, so I know that you've watched the video. Don't share that with anybody. Let them know that they have to watch the video themselves, and I will see you tomorrow.